Welcome to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. My name is Ron Quaroni, your host and your Saskatchewan mortgage professional. Today we're sitting down with Carla Browne with Real Property Management. We discuss property management, who is it for, what does it cost, and what are the big benefits. Hope you enjoy.
You're listening to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, where we chat with real estate experts from across the province to learn what's happening in the real estate market. Here's your host, Ron Quaroni.
Hello and welcome to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, and we're so happy to have on today Carla Browne with Real Property Management Professionals, and we're talking all things property management today. So first off, Carla, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us.
Thanks for having me, Ron. It is awesome to be here with you today and talking about Saskatchewan real estate in general.
No doubt about it. And Carla, before we get right into all the things about property management and Saskatchewan real estate, could you give us a little introduction about yourself and your role with RPM?
Sure. With Real Property Management Professionals, we are a property management company specializing in residential property management here in Saskatoon. And we have had the office here in Saskatoon since about 2014. And and I have a team here that I work with, and this is where I reside. I also, about 2 years ago, took a role on with our corporate head office. Real Property Management, if you don't know, is a franchise. So I also work with the national brand across Canada, and I've worked in a few different roles there with them. I was a broker for a number of the offices across Canada in 3 different provinces. And then I moved into operations management. And most recently, I've just been named as their new president. So I am now RPM president across Canada and still definitely run my office here in Saskatoon as well.
Congratulations. You're obviously a very busy lady then.
I'm very passionate about property management. I think that's what it is. But yes, busy is good.
So you're the perfect person to get us into this topic. So let's start it off, Carla. What is property management? And then a subsect to that, who is it for?
Sure. Property management, I really like to refer to it as asset management. So when our RPM in general, the way we really look at things is not so much the traditional property management of collecting rent checks and fixing toilets. We really take it a whole different level where we believe that we are managing the assets for our real estate investors, and we are here to help them create wealth through their investment in real estate. One thing I guess probably don't know about me, Ron, is I actually come from the real estate world. I spent over 20 years on the Century 21 side, not in real estate sales, always on the operational side. I worked with the offices around Saskatchewan. I brokered for them provincially for Century 21 Connexus, and then also was part owner in Century 21 Dome in Regina for a number of years before venturing into this. Well, kind of at the same time. And then I got out of that part and focused solely on the property management side. So I really understand the real estate side and what the property management can bring to the investor. And I really think that those two worlds have so many synergies between them and really need to work well. So I always talk about in property management or asset management, you need a power team, and the power team involves people like myself in the property management space, but involves that real estate agent, involves that mortgage broker, involves the lawyer, involves the accountant, and all of these pieces together can really make that real estate work for you.
So someone's sitting there, Carla, they're considering maybe getting into the real estate investing sphere. Perhaps they are. And at what point does someone say, property management is for me?
Yeah, I think property management honestly is for everybody, but I also recognize that a lot of people want to self-manage their properties. So I would still encourage individuals who are buying a property for investment to talk to property management companies, even if you think you're going to self-manage. And the reason being is that usually if you're only looking at properties and you're only seeing what's out there in the space, you might not really understand what the rental rates where people are actually getting nowadays, because the advertised price isn't always what is being the the price, just like in real estate, what's advertised isn't necessarily the sale price. So it's good to talk to them, understand what is happening, especially if you're buying maybe in a place that isn't in your own backyard. So understanding the pros and cons of the different areas, what they've seen happening, what kind of trends they see, what areas have more vacancy than others. And I would say have those conversations. There's lots of people I know that start off as a self-manager and then maybe will look to a property manager later on. And the reasons why they do that is maybe they've increased their portfolio, their lives got busy, now they're married, now they have children. There's all these different things that play into why you might want a property manager. Some people don't like to deal with tenant conflict. Someone has their first eviction, they don't know which way to turn, so now they're coming to us. So they come to me for different reasons, but I would say don't prevent that from talking to a property manager in the beginning of your search. Even if you think you might self-manage, it's okay. Most of them, including myself, are here to be able to give you a little bit of education on what that all looks like, so that you really understand what our services all encompass as far as working with the tenant and working with the investor.
So you mentioned, Carla, that you're an asset manager. What types of assets would you say that you guys would kind of specialize in, or what types of investments do you handle?
Yeah, we specialize in that single family in residential property. So whether it's a home, a condo, townhouse, that's where we're going to specialize primarily. Some of our offices across Canada do some multiplexes, or some have gotten into condo management. But as a rule, RPM is really in that niche or in that space of helping the small to medium size investor being able to really look after their property. Whereas some of the larger companies that have been around for a number of years, they only want the great big multiplexes, and that's what they specialize in. I would say our specialty is that investor that has anywhere from 1 to 20 units that they're looking for some management on. And a lot of small investors don't even know that they could have someone help them through that management of that asset. They think that if they're only buying one property, they're too small and nobody wants to deal with them. The majority of my investors only have 1 to 2 doors.
Property management can seem like a pretty broad term, Carla. What are some of the roles that would be encompassed under what you guys would kind of provide?
Right. So we think for the most part, what we try to do with the investor is we try to show them how we can use systems and processes to really lead through technology and marketing strategies. So what I mean by that is, from a full service perspective, a lot of my investors do not live anywhere near the properties that they've purchased. So they need someone who's going to give them that peace of mind. They need to know that when from the get-go, so we take over the property, we're doing inspections, we're helping the investor understand what they might need to do in order to get the property rent ready, so that it is going to take or look for that highest range of rental dollar. And then we will do the advertisement. We will do all of the vetting and the screening of the potential tenants. We'll do the whole move-in process. We'll do all of the maintenance, the periodic inspection, so that owners have that peace of mind of what's happening in their property when the tenants are living there. We'll help with the move-out process. Again, we bundle up all these nice little PDF reports and put them in the owner portal, so that the owner, no matter where they are, can at any time have a quick look to see what's happening. But at the same time, they don't have to worry about what's happening or being driving by the property or looking to do inspections and whatnot. So our owners, for the most part, are very hands-off, and we manage the process from start to finish, if that makes sense.
So if I go to Dairy Queen and I see that they have a number 1 combo and a number 2 combo, is there anything similar to that with RPM that you'd say, here's our number 1 combo where from start to finish, here are all the things that we'll handle. And maybe here's our number 2 package. How does that roll, or how are those things divvied up, Carla?
Yeah, in the office here in Saskatoon, we do have combo 1, combo 2, and combo 3, Ron, that you can choose from. And those are different percentages of management fees that you're going to be paid based on the revenue that we're bringing in on your property. And they will encompass a few different things. So the main differences between combo 1 and combo 3 per se would be the number of inspections that we would be doing for the investor throughout the year, as well as the different places that we can market the property when we are needing to fill a vacancy. The whole marketing part of rentals has really changed over the last few years, whereas before I could take on your property, get it onto my website, and I could throw it out to about 30 different what I call ILSs, or internet listing syndication partners, and really expose your property on the internet wherever you might want for basically free. Those ILSs now have realized that, hey, what we're sending all of these companies is pretty valuable. So I could start paying, or I could start charging for this. And they have. So now we're down to about 10 main ILSs in Canada. Some are more prevalent in some areas than others, and they all charge now. So they charge by the number of leads that they're going to generate for me to follow up as a property management company. So the different packages between those combos will also integrate a few different levels of advertising in case we need to do that. And then the inspection or evaluation, some people will call it, is really important as well. Because I always say I can't inspect what you don't allow me to get in and look at. So I can't give you peace of mind unless I'm allowed to get in there and poke around every once in a while. And it's not to check up on the tenants. The inspection has two purposes. First is to give that peace of mind to the investor, that so they can see what's happening in their property on a month-to-month basis or a quarter-to-quarter basis. And also for the tenant to be able to give us those small little things that they didn't necessarily want to bug us with, because that's what happens is like tenants, well, I didn't really want to tell you that there was a small leak under the sink. It wasn't a big deal. And those small things can end up being big things. So it allows us to catch those things and be a lot more proactive in the maintenance of the investor's home than being reactive. And reactive always costs more. So not every company in the RPM system might have those same combos because each office is independently owned and operated, but many have adopted that same way of thinking, is that I'll give the investor the option of choosing different things based on the number of services or what's important to them in the management of the property.
That makes a lot of sense. And so if we're talking about our combo 1, combo 2, combo 3, what are our range of prices for property management, Carla? What can an investor expect to kind of do some budgeting for this?
Yeah, I usually tell an investor to budget between 10 and 15%. And some will go because they're used to hearing commercial or multiplex rates, and they can be a little bit different when it comes to condo, commercial, and multiplex. But the single family, you can probably bank at about 10 to 15. And that's a range across Canada that is going to vary. There might be some that are a little less and some that are a little bit more, because it really does, like anything, kind of you have to look at the competition that you have in your area. So that might change slightly.
Speaking of kind of the area that you serve, Carla, would it just be Saskatoon? What are there other subsidiary towns that you would touch on? What's the location range for yourself?
Yeah, we're primarily Saskatoon and the surrounding area. By surrounding area, we do a lot of work in the Warman and the Martensvilles. We don't go out much farther than that. Most investors don't want to be paying a mileage cost for us to be out there. If we had a big project that we were working on in one of the outlying communities, we would look at that a bit different, because I'd probably have somebody that was maybe more local to the area. But primarily we're that Martensville, Warman, and Saskatoon.
All right, Carla, what are the biggest benefits out there? Someone is thinking about getting into or having someone come manage their properties for them. What would you say are the biggest reasons that you would advocate for someone doing that?
I think the biggest reasons is because we have the processes and systems in place that are scalable. So what somebody struggles with 1 or 5 units, I can do for 400 in about the same time. So we have all of the technology in place. So when a tenant is needing to report maintenance concern, we have a 24/7 call center that a live person will answer the call no matter what time of day it is. When that live person answers a call, if it is deemed an emergency and they're trained to know what's an emergency and what's not, we can dispatch right away so that we're mitigating the damage in our investor's property. Tenants also have the ability to use technology to report through their portal. We have texting communication in place. We have phone communication in place. We have so many different ways that the tenant can get in contact with us. And probably the biggest challenge that investors have is communication. So if you're working a full-time profession and a tenant is trying to get a hold of you at 2 p.m. and you can't respond till 7, that gap in time can really cause a lot of people to get anxious. Why isn't this person getting back to me? And so we have systems in place to make sure that those calls and those texts are answered automatically. So communication is a big one. The process when somebody from when they give notice to when they move out, there's a lot of things that have to happen along there to make sure that we're able to get the tenants out, the property ready and re-rented. So we have them down to an automated checklist. So in my office, when we launch that move out workflow, everyone knows what they have to do in order to make sure that process goes by really smoothly. And as soon as you miss something along the line, things don't go smooth. And that's usually what I find. And probably the biggest one, I think, for investors is that they always envision this. I'm moving the tenants in. They've seemed like such nice people. And now, oh my goodness, now they're not paying rent and they're not answering my calls. They're not answering the door when I go there. And then they don't know what to do because that's not why they got into it. They got in for like that picture version or the TV version of it, not what can sometimes happen. So our vetting processes, in order to make sure we're putting in high quality tenants, I would say are second to none. I do very few evictions. Very few. And there's a reason for it, is because I'm super picky about who I put in the property. If I wouldn't put them in my own house, I'm not going to put them in yours. And I truly stick to that. So people come to us, I guess I'm going all over the map with your question, Ron, but people come to us for a few different reasons. But for the most part is that I can show them that our systems will help streamline things much easier than they could do on their own. Obviously, you're not going to go and purchase a big software program and invest thousands and thousands of dollars if you have 1 to 5 investment properties. You're probably going to do it on a spreadsheet, and you're going to call the tenants when you need the rent, and you're going to hope that they don't call you too often for maintenance. And in our case, it's the exact opposite. They call us, it's not a problem. I know how to find out whether or not it's something major, something minor, and how we're going to deal with it.
And all those different things packaged together. If someone is, like you say, working a full-time job somewhere else, and then they're also having to work a part-time job on their rental property investing, and the property management becomes a big part of that, it can be a big burden on them. So you're totally right. I understand that it has to be a huge relief to some of these people that once they're able to not have to, focus on that part of it, it probably makes investing a lot easier for them.
It does, because they got into investing because of the fun part, right? They didn't get in because of the other parts. And you don't really realize it sometimes until you're in it. But there are, just like any business, there's parts of it that aren't ones that we all want to do every day. But because we have a system, it's really not that bad. Because a lot of people look at me and will say, why do you want to do property management? Like if they've been an investor, they'll look at me like, why do you want to do this? Like, are you crazy? How can you still be smiling at the end of the day? And it's like, it is not that bad. And tenants are people. Like they really are. This is like any business. I always say it's property management is really a people to people business. And the more we can put it out there that we are there to protect our tenants, and we are there to provide safe and clean homes. And they know that we can help be their mediator when things aren't going right on the property. So even though our investor is always our number one, it's their property and we're here to look after it. The tenant is very much our client as well. So we take that part just as serious. And people's lifestyles change. I've seen that many times where people are like, I think I can do this on my own. And they will call me a year down the road or 2 years down the road. And that's good. I'm glad that they remembered to call me that right. when the need arose.
And it might be a good learning experience for them to have a little taste of it and decide, maybe they just love property management on that side. They really enjoy tenant interactions. There might be some people who kind of fall on the flip side of that. Anything else to add on the topic of property management, Carla, before we kind of wrap this up?
No. And then I'm saying, but, I really encourage people, because we're talking, Saskatchewan real estate. So we're talking to people in Saskatchewan, and just if you're in real estate or if you understand real estate, there's cycles, and the cycle of real estate may show that right now is not a good time to invest in certain areas of Canada. There is always some good areas in Canada. So with real property management being national in scope, we can give you the peace of mind of creating a fairly consistent client experience across Canada. So if you're looking at investing and you're talking to a real estate agent and you're talking to a mortgage broker and you're talking to a property manager and you're figuring out which area in Canada might be more lucrative at this point in time, I would say still call me so that I can point you in the right direction to a property management company in those areas. You don't need to invest in your own backyard in order to be an investor. Many of our clients have really looked at it, and we have a lot of people coming from Ontario now into Saskatchewan, and they live in Ontario and they're perfectly happy because they can have a property manager for a property that they have in Ottawa, for a property that they have in Edmonton, and a property that they have in Saskatoon, and they know that everything is working somewhat the same because they've latched onto the different RPM offices across Canada.
Wonderful. If people want to get in contact with you, Carla, or stay up to date with RPM, what are the ways they can do so?
Yeah, RPM Canada, you can search us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Just search RPM Canada and you should find us. You can also reach me in any of the social media channels just by searching Carla Browne. I'm pretty easy to find. Brown has an E at the end, though. I guess we should clarify that. I'm not a color, but yeah, we're on social media. We're very active. And I think that's another thing that's really important. That has really driven a lot of awareness to what property management can be, is our marketing team is on there constantly trying to give advice, educational tips. We also now have a podcast as well, Ron, Canada's Property Management Podcast. So anyone who's listening here might also want to tune into that one as well, where we are weekly and we're giving some good tips and tricks for anyone in that space.
What was that podcast again, Carla?
Canada's Property Management Podcast.
Carla's Property Management Podcast will be the subsidiary podcast after that.
Probably not. It's just Canada's Property Management Podcast.
All right. Very last question, Carla. If you could go back and give a younger version of yourself some advice, what would that advice be?
I think I would have invested in investment property a lot earlier. I was not a risk taker when I was younger, and that's what I thought it was. I thought it was risky to have these properties where you're letting people in and you hear the horror stories, and it is not a horror story. Like I said, I deal with very few evictions. I deal with very few damages, and it is an incredible way to build wealth in real estate. So the earlier you start, the better.
Fantastic. Carla, thanks so much for your expertise. Best of luck in your continued role. And I really hope that some people watch this and give you a call.
Thanks a lot, Ron. And I've already taken note of your podcast so I can make sure I'm listening to all of your future guests as well. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks so much, Carla. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
Thanks so much to Carla for sitting down with us and giving us that really in-depth perspective of what property management is and what it can do for you. If you haven't heard, the podcast is available on Spotify as well. As always, please show your support by hitting the like and subscribe button. I'm Ron Quaroni, your Saskatchewan mortgage professional. Have a great week.
This has been the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. If you like this episode, find more information and episodes on our Facebook and YouTube pages. If you'd like to be a guest or have a conversation you'd like to learn more about, let us know by messaging the show on Facebook. Thanks for listening.